another PC. This one is older than it looks, maybe. It's got Firewire down here, it's got USB. It's missing the front, which is annoying because basically it will look like this forever. But it is a bit of an odd one. We've got a Perspex side panel with a strange design. I'm not sure if you can really see that very well. And then on the back we have got some pretty chunky looking stuff. We've got a key and a lock. It's interesting. Pretty rare to find that on a tower case. We've got a sort of goldish power supply. Some writing. I can't read. Blue in, green out. Oh, well, for the audio, got extra connections here as well. USB, 2 network connections. That's interesting. Got a graphics card, a Firewire card, and a Wi-Fi card, and got a powered by ASUS sticker here. So I think if this is unlocked, let me check. I should be able to get inside. Then again, maybe not. Yeah, look, there's a. Oh, we need to click that. Side comes off. There's that plastic side. And then what do we have inside? Got a lot of dust. And let's change the camera view so you can see. Okay, so we've got another EZCOOL power supply, 450 watts. If you watch my other videos, I'm not a fan of these. I don't have much luck with these. There was one with a dodgy fan, and we've also got one that is makes a whistling noise. So yeah, I don't know whether this is going to be any good, but yeah, it says it's got a Pentium 4 sticker. I mean, it's old. There's also a intrusion detection connection here that hasn't been connected to the motherboard, and we've got a 20-pin power connector. We've got many things disconnected. So there's also an extra USB connection, and this is an NVIDIA motherboard. Oh, it's got it looks like the Wi-Fi card is actually, I just found a random thing there. It looks like the Wi-Fi card is an additional connection for this motherboard. So yeah, that's interesting. Looks like quite a high-end motherboard. I'll move some of this stuff out of the way so we can have a better look at that. The optical drive is disconnected. There is no hard drive. There is a floppy drive. And there's a lot of dust. That is gross. As you can see, I'm going to get a vacuum. So I've given that a little bit of a clean. This is an AMD board. It's an ASUS A7N8X-E Deluxe. And that's an socket 462 board. So there could be an AMD from 1000 to 3200 in here. And yeah, let's have a look at the board. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way so you can see better. It's got a whole bunch of IDE cables. Move out of the way. Floppy drive cables. It's got a business card from the vets as well. And it's got one of these old power connectors. So the board looks relatively okay. This is a PCI graphics card rather than an AGP card. It's got an AGP slot here. And there's these weird little plastic toggles to hold the boards in place. Let's just start by having a look at some of these. So this is the graphics card. See if there's a label. So we've got an MX400 64-bit 64 meg PCI card here. That's pretty bog standard, isn't it? Be a Geforce card. MX128 on here. 64-bit on here. And let's have a look at the next thing in here. And this is the Firewire card. Felt quite stuck, standard via Firewire card. Nothing very exciting there. Let's have a look at this Wi-Fi card, which doesn't actually connect into the PCI slot. If you can see here, the Wi-Fi card actually connects into an additional connector on the bottom of the motherboard. And this is the Wi-Fi card. Pretty gross. And you can see these are the actual connections that just connects into a socket in the motherboard, which is an interesting way of doing it. Pretty slow Wi-Fi, but yeah, interesting way of doing it rather than say just a PCI card. And that's the back of that. We'll have a look at the memory. And let's see what this is. We've got 1 GB of DDR memory, 400 CELENADE. I've never heard of that before. This is the same, so it had or has 2 GB of RAM. Let's look at the processor next. So I've used a screwdriver to remove this. It's using 3 lugs, and the thermal paste is rather solid. Let's see if we can have a look at the processor. It's an AMD branded heatsink fan. And this is the processor. And it's an AMD Athlon 3000. So that's pretty good. The thermal paste is dry, so let's clean that and put some fresh thermal paste on before we do anything with this. And we can also test the power supply with it not being being disconnected. This board's also got SATA ports at the bottom. It's always fun to check the power supply early on in the video, just because, you know, you never know what's going to happen. Got a hard drive connected. Let's find the other connections. Got the 20-pin connector. And should have a CPU connection, which is here. So I've got all that, and then it's got a switch on the back that is switched off. I'm going to plug the power in, and we're ready to switch it on. I'm going to press the power button. After the power supply blew up the other day, I've kind of got a fear of power supplies, so I'm going to switch it on now. Okay, so it's working, and we've got a slow fan there, and we've also got a noisy fan. At the back of this one. So yeah, we've got 12.1, 12.1, 5.1, 12.1, 3.0, but also 5.1, and then this one's like not, that's not good, is it? If it's kind of saying HH and flashing off. It's using 22 watts at the moment, so I'm just going to say that this is bad, basically, not something to be used. I don't know what HH means on these systems, I mean on this tester, but it's not worth risking using and something blowing up, so just going to say nope. This power supply is no good. I mean, you can hear it. That is not a good sound. I'm going to switch it off and then take it out of here. This is the power supply with all the different things on the label. There's like a model up there, just in case you want to have a look. You can pause that if you need more time. On these processors, this is the actual die of the CPU. There's no metal heat shield, so these were kind of easy to damage if you weren't careful. So you could actually get little shims that go on here to give some extra protection, and these little pads are also meant to protect them, but they kind of can deteriorate over time. So let's start putting it back together and use a different power supply and see if we get a working system. Thermal paste. Putting on the thermal paste. That should do the job. And I do need to clean the heatsink before putting it back on. If you want to see how gross this heatsink is, you can carry on watching, but if you don't want to see how gross this heatsink is, I would look away now. Okay, you've been warned. That is quite disgusting. I can't quite believe. I mean, how any air is supposed to get through there, I really don't know. So I'm going to go give this a proper wash with soap and water in the sink. This is the fan and heatsink after cleaning. And we've got a copper core on the heatsink, which is nice. It's got a little bit of a scratch and a dent in it, but thermal paste should kind of cover that up. And while I wait for this to dry, I'm going to go make a cup of tea and then come back. It's safe to look at the screen or the video again, so we're going to put this heatsink back on. It's got the 3 connections there and 3 there, and these are horrible. They're just horrible. It's a terrible combination of fragile processor with violent heatsink attachment mechanisms. They're never fun to work with, and it's just super awkward. And then you've also got all the motherboard components sort of in the way, like the capacitors and this heatsink, and it's just horrible to put together. You kind of need to clip on the back side of it. Oh, and I've put this on the wrong way around, so I need to take the fan back off and flip that around. So this should clip onto that section there at the back, and then whilst holding it flat, I'm then going to try and clip on this bit. Okay, so that's on, and then I can reattach this. If the power supply was in here, this would all be much more difficult as well. Okay, let's connect the fan. Let's put in some memory. And let's get a power supply. So I'm going to be using this Trust power supply. It seems the best of these old power supplies that I have at the moment for older systems. And we're going to connect the motherboard connection, and there's no extra connection on the board for the CPU, so we don't need to worry about that. And actually I think we're connected at the front. We do need the graphics card. There's no built-in onboard video output, so we'll connect up this PCI graphics card. This should slot in. There we go. And then we need keyboard, mouse. Well, we don't need the mouse really. Keyboard, mouse and power. And that's switched off. I'll connect the power cable. And then I'll move the camera so we can see what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to switch the power on. We have a LED light down here on the motherboard. So if I can find the power button on the front of this case, which I think might be this one. Let's see if we get anything on the screen. It's using 75 watts at the moment. We've got something on the screen, GeForce 2 MX400. Got a deluxe splash screen. Let's go into the BIOS. And we're in the BIOS. Hardware monitor. So, CPU temperature 29 degrees, 3.3 volts at 3.3 roughly, 5 volts, 12 volts, CPU fan speed. It's working. This is very nice. From 2002. Exit, yes. Let's have a look back at the splash screen and see if there's an alternate splash screen we can look at. That's the graphics card. and tab to show post screen. So here we are, XP 3000, 2 gigabytes of RAM, memory frequency, floppy disk fail, ASUS A7N, I can't say it, A7N8X-E. Yeah, it's the fan on the graphics card is making the noise. Yeah, so that's unfortunate. I'll probably just put in a different graphics card so we don't have to listen to that. But wow, it's working. So I'll switch it off and then put in a different graphics card and connect up a drive. I should have a drive that's got a Windows install that's from an AMD system that might work, so we'll just try that. Okay, so I've connected an AGP graphics card. It doesn't have a fan, so it won't make noise. I've got the hard drive from a different system that I've just connected up. I've also connected up the optical drive so we can see if there's anything in there. So let's switch it on. The front of the optical drive is kind of like burnt, so it and the eject button is burnt. It, like the front of the case, maybe PC melted. Not sure what's happening now. We're not getting a signal, are we? Let me plug this into the other socket. Oh, there we go. Plugged it into the wrong. It's a dual head video card. It's detected the drive. It's got SATA RAID. That's interesting. SATA RAID, silicon image. It's booting from the hard drive. We're getting the Windows XP logo. I'm just going to cover up the username, and we're getting to the logon screen. So I'm just quite surprised by how this just works. It does need cleaning and the case isn't ideal. I've pressed the power button so that this is shutting down. This fan's fairly loud, but that was kind of the style at the time for these systems to have really quite noisy fans, and this is relatively quiet for the time period, I think. So yeah, a working PC. I think this one is probably worth kind of putting in a different case. I might use one of the cases that we've shown previously to rebuild this system. And yeah, nice system this, really. It's a shame I've already got an Athlon system, because this is probably better. This board is probably better than the one I've got. Yeah, neat system. Probably used for some like importing video Firewire stuff. interesting Wi-Fi card, and a little fan here showing that that's faulty, but PCI MX 400 64-bit cards, not exactly exciting. This fan could probably be replaced quite easily. It's got a large hard drive cage here at the bottom, but yeah, it's quite high-end motherboard, decent processor, good amount of memory, nice system really, and definitely worth me building into a different case and putting a drive in and putting Windows XP or some other version of Windows on here for a retro Windows XP system. And yeah, if you got this far, thanks for watching. This definitely qualifies as PC Gunk, which we've cleaned, and just, yeah, nice little system. Thanks to the person who gave me all of this stuff, this old kit. Really appreciated, and makes this video possible. All right, thanks for watching, and see you on the next one. Bye. These are the mechanisms for holding the cards in place. They are really, really annoying. This one kind of has gone down, but doesn't quite line up properly. So you have to force that down, and then that's supposed to turn and lock in place, but it's not. Yeah, I'm not a fan of these in the slightest. That one's worked okay, but there's not a card in there. So let's try that one again. No, it's not. That one does not want to lock. And they also get in the way when you're putting the cards in. Thumbs down. This is the optical drive, and there's nothing in there.